Hi, welcome to today's podcast. I'm your host, Lori, and today's episode is entitled The New Normal. Now, if you've been listening to the podcast over the past 2 years, you already know that this is quite different than the way we normally do things. And as you probably heard me say, we are going to try something new. So tonight, I actually have someone joining me on the podcast. For those of you who don't know who he is, he happens to be my husband, Stephen Riston, the one and the only Stephen Riston.
I hate when she does that.
Actually, he goes by Esteban sometimes too, but we'll let it go by Stephen. So before we get into today's podcast more fully, I just want to ask you to please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. If you do, it really helps get the word out about these life-changing episodes. Stephen, the topic tonight, the new normal.
Yes.
What do you think about when you hear that?
I hate it.
Why?
Well, let me just start off with this. You know, both Lori and I are under the weather, so she springs this on me. Hey, we're going to do video tonight, and we're going to talk about the new normal. Of course, you told me that a couple of days ago.
Yeah, actually, it was a couple of days ago.
And then I was like, you know, during this pandemic over the last 2 years or so, there's this thing called the new normal, and then there was this thing about let's go back to normal, and I don't like either one of those. And I don't think that the phrase the new normal, I think that it actually had to be with the accept the way things are. That's the new normal, accept them. And I didn't like that. And then we're going to go back to normal. Well, I don't like that either, and here's why. Because going back to the normal for some people is going back to situations in their life where they're in the workplace or in hostile environments, and in their personal lives they're in relationships that are toxic. They're having, that's a bad place. So we don't want to go back to that normal. That's not normal. We want to go from where we are, not looking back, but looking forward. And so one of the things I wanted to tell you, and I'm getting a hog all the time here.
Well, that's typical.
Yeah,
that's typical.
It is. Don't do it.
No.
Don't ask me if you don't want to do. So here's what happens. Normal, let's define what it is. Normal really isn't what we want to be talking about. We're talking about things that we are going to allow to occur. Normal for us is really routine. Let's go back to our routine. Our routine of getting up in the morning, getting the kids ready for school, getting them out the door, getting in our car, commuting to a place where we're working, coming home, getting the kids, then fixing dinner, spend a little bit of time together, and then go to bed and do it all over again. That really is normal. No, that doesn't.
But that's not normal for everybody. You know, at Valor Ministries, we see all kinds of people whose normal might be different than the way we think normal should be. But more specifically, Stephen, when we talk about this new normal, over the past couple of weeks, you and I, when we've been talking with people, it doesn't matter what walks of life, we've heard that phrase is this the new normal? From church pastors to the clients we see to maybe just friends and family. It just seems like people understand that something's changed. Do you find that?
Yeah. And I hear people who are like the new normal, especially for those of us that are fortunate enough to telework. We get to work from home.
Right.
Trust me, I wore this dark shirt, so you couldn't see 2 years of sitting down in my basement working without moving around. But, I got to go buy new clothes to go back to work, because if I'm going to go to the office, I'm going to have to either hit the treadmill or just say new normal means new wardrobe. But the other thing I hear also is a reluctance of this new normal. They don't want to go back to the workplace. And I read an article yesterday that said that there are people who have a lot of stress and anxiety about returning to the workplace. And actually, this even sounds maybe just as crazy, but there are people that are anxious and stressful about even returning to a church.
Oh, yeah. But, something you said really piqued my interest about returning back to work. What's that thing they call it now, like the Great Walkout, or no?
Great Resignation.
The Great Resignation. So,
oh
my gosh.
Another one of my favorite topics, but we don't have all night to talk about it. But I will tell you, the Great Resignation, this is probably one of the greatest awakening of people who left the workforce because instead of the job they were doing, they went to find things that had value to them. I honestly believe that's why they departed. They left all these companies and businesses and restaurants, and this doesn't just apply for the upper level jobs. This applies to every layer. People said, you know what? if this is the end of the world, I'm going to go do something I want to do.
The end of the world?
Well, I mean, the pandemic at the beginning, we all thought, oh, this is it. Everyone's dead. But I had people I know who sold their homes, bought campers, stuck their kids in it, and drove all around the United States till they found a place that they really like, and that's where they finally let the air out of the tires and bought a home. And there are other people who said, you know what, I'm going to go to, they went to South America, they went to Peru, they went to different places and started working from there because they said, if I got to work and I don't have to go to the office, I'd rather work somewhere where when I'm done, I'm in paradise.
Well, hey, I'd join if I could.
I would too. I'd be like, yeah.
I wish we were there.
Yeah.
Can you take me?
I got the basement, so.
Oh.
That's mine.
Oh, okay. Well, you can have it.
Yeah.
As long as you clean it. As long as you clean it, we're good. We're good.
We'll negotiate.
Okay. Well, one of the things I noticed at Valor Ministries is that some people don't want to go back to work because the government's taking care of them.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that's everybody. I'm not trying to paint that picture. But if people are going to give you free money, sometimes you take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the new normal for some people is not working. But again, I think that brings a lot of complications because the Bible's pretty clear. You know, he gave man and woman work to keep us occupied. I think that when we don't work, that brings a lot of problems. I know we get in a lot of trouble. And the Bible's pretty clear. You don't work, you don't eat, right?
That's true.
So I think people are doing themselves a big disservice by maybe taking advantage of some of this free money because at some point I truly believe that it's going to do more harm than good. Do you think so, Stephen? Or what do you think about that?
Oh, I think so. And I'll tell you why. I don't want to get political.
Right.
But my experience is just as fast as the funding can be turned on, the funding can be turned off. And so if your reliance is in a government who's doing things right now and last year and the year before because of political environment and elections and all those other things that play in there, there's a good chance that that's going to dry up. I mean, you can't keep printing money and expect the world to go on.
Well, and that's not just for that's not just for people. That's for organizations as well.
Right back.
You all right? Well, it'll just be me now. But what I'm trying to say is, or what I think Stephen's trying to say, is that as that money dries up, some of us can get back into a crisis situation, maybe for the first time ever, or maybe we had already gotten out of it and we're going to go back in again. You know, up at the Valor and Crisis and Training Center, we actually instruct people that that's exactly what could happen. And people think, oh, you're crazy. I'm good. I'm right there on some short-term governmental supports and I don't have to worry. We say, okay, well, maybe, but that's not the way we typically see things work out. Well, one time we were talking to a gentleman and the phone rang while we were having the class and talking about those things. He actually left the room, came back in, and he says, well, I don't believe it. What you said just came true. And I'm like, what happened? And he says, well, I just found out that the money that I'm supposed to be getting, they're going to stop it next month. And he said, I'm right back in crisis. So again, you know, if you're relying really on anything other than God, it doesn't have to be the government. It doesn't have to be money. It could be other people. It could be any type of security that you're putting above God. Only God's the one that is going to help you through any situation. So, you know, don't you think so?
I do.
Yeah.
Now, for those who say, well, hey, take the God element out. You know, I don't believe in God. I got this. And the answer is, think about what we're saying. What is the probability of it happening? So you know that's the beauty. You have the freedom to choose what you're going to do and who you're going to follow and what you're going to believe in and what you're going to put your trust and faith in. And so faith isn't just necessarily in a God, but faith could be in a government system. It could be in your neighbors. It could be in family. It could be any one of those things. But if you've put your faith in those things and it hasn't worked out right, or hasn't worked out the way you had hoped it would work out, or it isn't consistent and you're still paycheck to paycheck or donation to donation, then I suggest maybe you might want to try something different.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, Stephen, we were talking with some pastors recently that was experiencing a huge decrease in the number of people that were coming in. So the new normal for them was 9 people. And not that those 9 people aren't important, they are. But they were feeling like, what's going on? What's happening? We can't understand.
Yeah.
And one of the things we were trying to say is you're not the only one. There are so many nonprofits, churches, community even businesses, small businesses that are really being affected by all things COVID and the everything that's happened since then. And their new normal is trying to sit around and figure out what's going on. But you know what? We can't always figure out what's going on. Sometimes we're just not. I hate to say it like this, but we're just not privy to it. God doesn't always reveal what He's doing. I think we just have to learn to trust during these times when we're just so uncertain about why things are going the way they're going.
Yeah, I think as a business and nonprofit, I think we can actually look at the churches and actually see what happens when you're not prepared or you're not willing to change. I don't want to say that this new normal is all necessarily all bad stuff.
Right.
Because,
I agree with you.
Look, yes, we talked to pastor friends of ours, and their churches, people stopped coming. They stopped meeting regularly.
They've closed their doors.
Yeah, and I think
very sad.
Myself and some friends of ours, we spent a good portion of 2019 and 2020.
Excuse me.
Your turn.
Yeah, sorry.
And she wanted to do this the week we're both sick. I don't know. But we spent the first part of that year helping churches learn how to do live streaming, how to do using some of the tools that they needed to have, and setting cameras up and sound and integrating it and how to make it work, what platform you're going to go to. And they did the best they could, but they weren't prepared. Other churches leaned into this and said, you know what? Life is changing.
Right.
The world is changing. And they jumped in both feet. And I will use our church as an example, not the church we go to. They actually moved everything outside. And so for every Sunday that the weather was permitting, and there were a lot of Sundays the weather was permitting, we were outdoors.
I loved it outdoors, I have to say. I wish we could do that all the time.
And that's the
awesome.
problem. And that's the problem because we all would. I mean, people were coming. They were putting up their pop-up canopies. They had their dogs with them, their children, their coolers with them. It was just great to be there with everybody. It was more like a community event. And then I think sometimes even after the church service was over, they turned the sprinklers on and let the kids run through them in the football field area there. It was nice.
It was nice.
Matter of fact, it was so nice that the problem is the church who's now back indoors wants to go back outdoors. And so now our leadership has to think of ways in which they can satisfy those who say, hey, the new normal includes going back over to the park. And that's a lot of work. Setting up stage, sound systems, lighting, all the things it does to produce church in the morning. That has to happen so everybody can hear because there's a lot of people there. And then also to record it, to make sure it's available for those people who can't be out there. Yeah, and let me tell you, the new normal also means this other thing, that we've learned that some of us can do our jobs equally well at home than we can in the office.
I actually do better at the office or at home than the office. So I'm sorry to my office peeps, but I can get so much more done at home. And Stephen knows that he is not allowed to come out of the basement, which is, again, his place. You heard him say it. Because if he does come up and start talking and I'm working, I say, I'm working. I'm in a meeting. I'm in a meeting. Pretend.
You say I'm at the office.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Well, whatever I say, it hopefully does the trick.
I spend a lot of time in the basement. Actually, I will be selling mushrooms later on because I got a whole bunch of those down there.
I thought maybe you'd sell some of your guitars. And if you're listening and you need a guitar, please contact my husband Stephen because he's got way too many. And I think the Lord might just want to put it on his heart to maybe gift one of those to somebody. Right?
What?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
one other thing I wanted to touch base on about the new normal is families.
Yeah.
What's the new normal for families these days since COVID?
Now, I'm going to say this because some of us, some people, you don't have children.
Right. Well,
So,
family doesn't have to be kids.
Yeah, let's talk about pets. Did you know that there's now a study out that talks about pets when we go back to the workforce, back to the office?
Oh,
what
that's right.
These pets are going to have separation anxiety.
Yeah.
I mean, how are you going to talk to your little puppy? Because my little girl, Gracie, she's down in the basement with me 24/7. When I'm down there, she's my little shadow, and she's with me. And so
I'm surprised she's not here on our laps right now.
No,
she's tired. We had the grandkids over here today, and we're all tired.
But now you think about it. Now you got to think about, what do you do with your little pets? How are they going to handle you? They're so used to you for the last 2 years being there, and now all of a sudden you're gone. And the other thing is, you have a greater flexibility in your time, so you could spend time with the kids. You could structure your day. It could be a longer day. Well, no, it's not going to be any longer. We only get 24 hours, but you can break the day up with work things, family things, personal things, back to work, back to family. I mean, there's this great opportunity there. And honestly, some people probably will do better there than they will sitting in a cubicle somewhere.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be better off for our people's mental health. You know, if employers can come up with some incentives to incentivize people to come back, or to people to stay home and do work. Hope you feel better soon. In a way that is a win-win for everybody, you know. But yeah, I definitely think families and especially kids having their families around a little more too, their mom and dad, it's probably a lot better for them. Now, with that being said, parents who have kids that are teachers, parents that are teachers.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What those people have gone through in the last 2 years. You know, not only are they having to watch their children, they're having to take care and teach their kids or students, sometimes remote, sometimes in person, sometimes both. I just can't imagine. And the new normal for them is very stressful. I mean, from what I'm hearing, they're having a lot of absenteeism with staff, and so a lot of these teachers are really stressed out because they're having to pick up the slack.
We learn the kids, the health of the child who has not been in a social environment are missing out on those formative times in school. Plus, they're missing out on a more structured curriculum. I know it's kind of interesting, but several of my friends in our band, they're school teachers, and so they were doing remote from home teaching on Zoom or whatever they were using. And then when they went back to the school, not all kids went back to the classroom. They had to still do Zoom in the classroom with some kids in the classroom, but they couldn't have the cameras on because they didn't want anybody to know who was in the classroom. It was very complicated. And they were actually having to do two different kind of lesson plans.
That's what I mean. But then they also have to watch their kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I just, and we actually have a lot of school teachers in our immediate family, so we can really sympathize with them. It's been stressful. Let's see. The new normal with our finances. Oh my gosh. You got any thoughts on that, Stephen? I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, well, what is it?
There's very little I don't have a thought on.
Oh, that's true. That is so true.
So, I don't understand why the economy is the way that it is, because it seems to me that people have spent more money in the last 2 years than any other time. And I'm going to cough again.
Well, you know what? When the Lord lays it on your heart to try something new, you got to do it.
And you let's do
it.
this while we're sick. It'll be great.
It'll be great. Yeah, and people will appreciate the fact that we did it anyway. Yeah. But yeah, finances have been truly affected by this new normal. There's a lot of people that are still suffering the ramifications of all this. Some people, like you said, are out there spending a lot of that stimulus money, and the economy, has been ticking back up in some respects, but in others, not so much. And we all know that with the inflation, how it's going up every day, a lot of our food and everything else that we buy is just going through the roof. That's getting tough. So that new normal.
Yeah, I never thought in my life here in this country that I'd ever go to a grocery store and see some shelves bare. I never thought, unless it's right before a snowstorm.
Right.
Then it's bread and milk and toilet paper.
I don't ever have to worry about toilet paper, though, because my mom has all the toilet paper that we would need.
That's true.
Clear back from Y2K, probably. all the way up to now. So we're good with toilet paper,
Yeah.
but not so much of the other stuff.
I never thought, and and I'll tell you, here's the new normal too. And you can check this out when you go to your grocery store. The grocery store's getting sneaky with you. So there's actually less product out there. But what they're doing is when they front the cans, where it used to be like 4 rows of soup, now it's instead of 4 cans wide, it's 8 cans wide and only 2-3 cans
deep.
back, because they're filling up the shelves to give the perception that everything's okay.
Yeah, but you know what? It's from my understanding, especially with what's going on up in Canada right now, the shipping is still a very big issue. Getting it from one place to another across the country or
Yes.
between countries in North America, it's not getting better. So I think we should take that seriously and understand that the new normal could be negative rather than even positive in some cases, especially with that kind of thing, till it gets better. Hopefully it will get better and the new normal won't stay. Okay, so I think we pretty much talked about everything that I had down here. Did you want to talk about anything else regarding the new normal?
Well, I was just going to say, I tend to take, I'm the otter.
You're the smart one. I know that.
No, someone said I was the otter because I play too much.
Oh, that's right.
But I believe this, that when we come out of all of this, we'll have a better understanding so that if this ever happens again, we'll be better prepared for it. We'll understand what it is. We'll understand what's available to us. We'll have figured out the shipping and the supply chain problems. We'll figure it out, whose job is really priority. But this much I do know. Everyone is a priority. I don't care what job you have. That has nothing to do with your priority.
Or essential, as they put it.
That is essential.
Everyone's essential.
Everyone's essential. We need everyone. And I know that as we drift into whatever this new is, that we're just going to have to at times extend a little grace to one another. We're going to have to understand that there are differences of opinions, but that's okay. We can be different in our opinion and still be respectful and actually continue to love one another.
Right.
We don't need to behave in the way in which some people want to say we're behaving or want to paint a picture a certain way. I think if we just astonish the world by showing the love of Christ to everyone and being open and honest and receiving, and also that when we share our truth, they reciprocate with respect and kindness, that we'll be all right.
Well, I think it's a tremendous opportunity, and I think you alluded to that at the very beginning. Anytime you go through something like this, of course, it shakes our entire foundation, and it can cause a lot of fear. But Isaiah 43, verses 18 through 19 says, "Remember not the former things, nor consider the things of old. Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not," let me read it, "perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert." That to me gives me a lot of hope. But sometimes God does do something new. And the new normal, again, could be a positive or negative. But if you have the right attitude, if you kind of take those negative or fearful thoughts captive and you turn it around and recognize that even sometimes bad things work together for our good, for those who love God and are called according to his purposes. And I truly believe that. I say that a lot on these podcasts. That's because I believe it with my whole heart. It doesn't matter what happens to us. God is still involved and God's still on the throne. And sometimes he does not put this stuff on us because that's biblical. He allows us to go through it. He's in control. He doesn't want any of us to have to go through terrible times, but he will allow things in our life to be able to shape us and mold us into the people he wants us to be. And one of the things I found that when I'm going through a difficult time, I have to remember that it really doesn't matter what's happening on the outside of my life. It only matters what's happening on the inside with me and God. And no matter what we go through, we can do all things through Christ who gives us strength. So whether the new normal is good or bad, because storms of life come. We talk about this all the time too. If you're not in a storm right now, just wait. You're probably going to get ready to go right into one, or you just left a storm. but you're going to come out of it, right? You're going to come out of it. So when you come out of it, you're going to be a changed person. And so we've gone through a storm here with COVID. Some of us are still going through it. But we will come out of it. And hopefully we'll come out of it in better shape than we were. And recognize that, God's going to make everything good. What do you think about that?
Yes. Yes.
Can you back it brother up?
I'm with
Can you go, woo-hoo, make me feel a little better about, because I'm already really nervous about this. I mean, God's been putting this on my heart for a year now, that I want to do this kind of podcast. I'm not saying I won't go back and do some of the ways I did it before, but I just want to have a very real and authentic conversation with people. Us, but maybe other guests. But the message that I want to get out, I want it to be real. We're real people here. We're not fake. I'll just be honest, this whole setup with being sick and having the grandkids and a lot of other things was very stressful tonight. The computer equipment wouldn't work. We argued about where to put this camera set up because I had an idea in my mind, and he's been working hard all week down in the basement, as well as taking school. He's going for his master's of business administration, which is his second master's, by the way. Very hard worker. But when God wants to do something new, we have to let it happen. And we want to be as real as we can here. We don't want to pretend that we're perfect people, because we're not. We're just people that God allowed to be transformed by the renewing of our minds through His Word. And God's Word is a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. So as we go through these difficult times, these tough times, we need to use that Word, because it'll light up the way. And if we don't know how to maneuver through this new normal, maybe what we need to do is let that Word sink into our hearts, sink into our minds, and illuminate around us, so that we can start seeing what God wants to do new in our life. Did you have any other scriptures that maybe you wanted to?
I think what I want I know what I want to share.
Okay,
right
well,
now.
go ahead.
Like tonight, this was not. If for me, I would have scheduled this a week or two later. Because as I said, we're not feeling well.
Well, I'm feeling a lot better than I was.
Yeah,
that's for
a
sure.
lot better. But it's real.
You're right.
If you knew we were sitting and how this looked, you'd be like, hey, "You guys are nuts." But I think the thing is this: that if you're always waiting for the perfect time, the time will never come.
Right.
So even when we're not feeling well, when the equipment wasn't working the way we were hoping it was going to be working, coughing throughout this entire thing probably, but yet we still going to step out and do what we're supposed to be doing, what we feel like we're supposed to be doing. So I encourage you, don't be waiting for the perfect day. And here I'm going to cough again.
Me too. Let's do it together. All right, back at you.
That's so wrong.
Well, I told Stephen, because I want it to be real and honest, I want it to be very organic. Let what happens happen, right?
Well, it happened.
It happened. Well, you want me to get you something, lozenges? Something.
I was feeling really good. I was thinking, oh man, I'm going to be all right. And then all of a sudden, I sit down in this chair, and then all of a sudden,
But you look good. Because
it's the shirt.
It's the shirt. Oh, that's a pretty shirt.
Yeah, you can get these online.
Yeah, actually you can. If you don't know, we do sell merchandise online at www.thevalorcenter.org/shop. We have inspirational merchandise for you. The Thrive shirt, the Valor Crisis and Training Center shirt.
Next time I'll wear my other t-shirt.
Yeah, maybe we'll both wear them, because I'd like to wear them. And we'll surprise you with that. But there's also mugs and hats and other things that, maybe you could put on to brighten your day. Or if someone's going through a tough time, maybe you could brighten their day. So again, that's www.thevalorcenter.org/shop. And also, if you are struggling right now, if you are struggling or having a tough time with this new normal in your own life, Valor really can help. We do understand what it's like to go through crisis. Many of us, right here, well, that's not right, like this. I don't know this stuff. I'm doing both, but it's not working. We have been to hell and back in our lives a lot, many times. We know what it's like to be in crisis. We also knows what it's like to get out of crisis, and we know that the steps you need to take from crisis to thriving. And so we'd love to help. Our staff can really help you with some life strategies or business strategies to help you get things back on track. All you got to do if you want some help, we call that personal development coaching, and you can contact us at info@thevalorcenter.org, or you can go to our website at www.thevalorcenter.org, or you can check us out on Facebook at Valor Ministries. We also have a sister endeavor that we call Valor Excel, and you can find out more about that. That's strategies to help you thrive in business. It's to help you work smarter and not harder. Check us out at www.valorexcel.com, or find us on Facebook at Valor Excel. And lastly, well, not lastly, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. If you have any topics that you want Stephen and I, or maybe some other guests, to talk about on future episodes, reach out to us at media@thevalorcenter.org, and we'll really take a look at that and consider it, because we want to be a benefit to you. We really want to be a blessing to you. And if we have been a blessing to you, would you consider financially supporting us in our efforts? If you want to donate, you can do that securely online by going to www.thevalorcenter.org and clicking on that donate button, or you can mail a check or money order to Valor Ministries, 324 East Antietam Street, Suite 104, Hagerstown, Maryland, 21740. Now, Stephen, want to give you a little commercial time. You didn't know this, but I did have it on the paper. So if you'd have read the paper, you'd have known. But we are looking for church groups. So if you're someone listening that's involved with your church, maybe a small group, a Bible study, maybe even a youth group, that might want to get involved in the community in a really fun and awesome way, maybe consider helping volunteer at Encounter City Park on Wednesday nights starting in June until August. Stephen, you want to tell one a little bit about that?
I think I should clarify, if you're in the Washington County, Maryland area,
oh, that's
or Hagerstown.
I'm
but
sorry.
if you're watching from anywhere else in the world,
I'm sorry.
That's a good commute to come on and help us. But
well,
yeah, but if
you don't know.
I don't know.
And they might want to come.
That's true.
You never know.
I remember the lady that drove all the way from what's that place in Pennsylvania where the turnpike comes up? She was the accountant, and she drove all the way here. It's like 60, 70 some miles away.
I don't know. I don't remember that.
Remember, she came here and she said, she felt like I was telling her to be the accountant, and she came and did our books for us in the beginning.
No, I don't remember that, to be honest with you.
What?
I
do remember that.
I don't remember that.
I do remember.
Well, maybe we'll have to figure that out.
She was from Breezewood.
Well, we'll have to talk about that.
We're going to talk about your memory.
I don't know. Hey, I'm under a lot of pressure, so I'm trying to get through the new normal at work. I don't always remember stuff. I got to admit it. I am of that age now.
What's my name? Look at your paper.
Esteban. Anyway, I do remember people coming from far away. I just don't remember that. So fill me in later. Maybe we'll follow up with that next week. Jeez. But anyway, tell them about Encounter City Park and what some groups can do if they wanted to help on Wednesday nights.
Yeah, so Encounter City Park on Wednesday night at the Hagerstown City Park Band Shell, we have Christian music. It's free, open to the public. Everyone can come, and it's high.
I do remember her now. Sorry, I do. I know exactly what you're talking about. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
I know exactly.
So we actually still need a couple more groups to come out and play on Wednesday night. So if you're interested in that, you can go to encountercitypark.org. And you can read about it. There's an application there if you want to. But if you want to help, just by being there, being available to talk with people, there are a lot of people that come to that park. I think the park is rated like the number 2 park
I think
in
it's
America.
number 1.
Maybe number 1 park.
Or maybe the top 10.
Okay, let's just do this way. It's in the top 5 because I don't want to sell our town short. The top 5 city parks in the United States. So there's a lot of
It's very pretty.
Oh yeah, it's gorgeous.
And it's nice, and people love it.
Yeah.
And it's a really nice way to
come spend a Wednesday evening. We
Yeah.
have people that bring their meals out. They'll sit and have their meals, and then the music comes, and they hang around. Small groups gather. We've had some churches come out and just enjoy the music and be available to talk with people.
Yeah, pray for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot of good conversations out there.
Yeah.
So I encourage you to sign up. And again, you can contact us at info@thevalorcenter.org, and just let us know that you want to participate or I'll get you connected with Stephen right away.
Yep.
So I just want to thank you. Stephen, do you want to thank the people for listening to our ramblings tonight?
Thank you.
I hope we were a blessing to you. I hope that you got something out of this conversation, especially the scripture. You know, God's word is just amazing. But I hope you'll join us again for next week's episode. And until then, I want you to remember this, or maybe we can say it together. Do you know what I'm going to say?
No.
You were made to thrive. See you next time.